Hello, I'm Darren Magee, and today's topic is looking at trauma bonding. Now, recently I've had a lot of questions about trauma bonding, which I don't think I could answer in the one video. So today I'm just going to give a brief outline of what trauma bonding is, but then I'm going to look at some of the common signs of being trauma bonded. In future videos, I'm going to look at the stages of trauma bonding, how it happens. I'm going to look at the impact of trauma bonding. And lastly, I'll look at ways of breaking free from being trauma bonded. So if you like this video, if you find it interesting or helpful, do please consider subscribing to my channel. But just as a reminder, this video is for information purposes only and is not a substitute for support from a mental health professional. Now, trauma bonding is not necessarily the same as Stockholm Syndrome. There are similarities and that term isn't really used anymore. It doesn't really cover the many different situations and relationships in which trauma bonding can occur, nor does it really cover the many different ways in which it can manifest. The term trauma bonding was first coined by Patrick Carnes back in 1997 in his presentation Trauma Bonds: Why People Bond to Those That Hurt Them. He described it as an emotional but dysfunctional attachment that occurs in the presence of danger, shame, or exploitation. And yes, it often develops in relationships that are coercive and abusive. It's a form of psychological conditioning which often involves both positive and negative reinforcement. Tends to take place in relationships where there is a one-sided power balance that is being exploited. The abused person fears ending the relationship or trying to end the abuse, or finds redressing that power imbalance to be either terrifying or impossible. And that relationship, now that could be with a husband, with a wife, with a partner, it could be with a parent, with adult children even, it could be with a family member, it could take place in a cult, a workplace, or in an organization even. But for today, I'm just going to focus on being trauma bonded to another person, whether that's a partner or a family member or whoever. And I would like to point out that being trauma bonded to an abusive person by no means, by no stretch of the imagination, does it make someone weak. It can happen over a long period of time, or it can happen quite quickly. Either way, it tends to be quite insidious. It tends to happen quite insidiously. In fact, many people who are in trauma bonded relationships who seek help, seek support from either professional organizations or present in therapy, they tend to be quite highly capable, intelligent people. They don't necessarily need help or support in other areas of their life. And also, many people might know exactly what's going on, even if they don't have a name for it, but they feel helpless to do anything. So let's look at some of the common signs of being trauma bonded, and in no particular order. The first one would be constantly worrying that you might do something that will upset them. Now, some people describe this as like walking on eggshells, but I would liken it to more like being afraid that you're on a minefield, afraid of where to take your next step, fearful of the next explosion. And this can lead people to compromise their values, their self-worth, their self-respect, even their own sense of agency, putting the abuser's demands above their own needs, even sometimes apologizing for things they haven't even done. Secondly, you might know they're no good for you. They lie, deceive, or are abusive. And secretly, you might even resent them for the way they behave, but it's hard to let go. It's hard to leave. Every now and then there may be little crumbs of attention, affection, and this would be, remember, the positive reinforcement. So despite the abuse, those occasional little tidbits of love and attention might feel good to the point where it can make people forget the abuse, even if it's just for a moment. And that emotional roller coaster can be something like an addiction, putting up with the lows in order to try and get the highs. Some cases, some people may be so starved of love, affection, even acceptance. The desire for it from the abuser is so strong they will do almost anything, put up with a lot in the hope of getting it. Those little tidbits, those crumbs, they keep the person hooked. maybe this time it'll be different. Maybe this time it'll be better. Maybe this time it'll last forever. Sign number 3, you try to protect them. Now, some people develop a loyalty to their abuser. They may accept responsibility for the bad things that happen in their abuser's life, their past traumas, their current difficulties, and try to fix and rescue them. When others point out their bad behavior or voice their concerns, they either ignore it, play it down, pretend they don't know what you're talking about, or try to defend them. In some cases, they may even make up excuses for the abuser to themselves. It's not their fault. It was their horrible upbringing. It's not their fault. It's their illness, their addiction, their condition. It's the fault of that horrible ex of theirs, and on it goes. And for want of a better term, some people can be brainwashed so much that they actually believe that maybe they deserve that kind of treatment. It was my fault. They didn't mean to. It was me that upset them. I was being unreasonable. I communicated that badly. I can change them if I try harder. Sign number 4. In spite of getting little to nothing back except misery, pain, and rejection, you do everything you can to please them. Now, some people will jump through hoops. They will compromise, give in, back down in the hope of either getting a little bit of love in return, or at least to try and avoid the abuse. And that person is so mean, they're cruel, they're selfish, disagreeable, destructive, they're inflexible. But if I say no to them or I try to leave them, then I am selfish. I'm the bad person. People are going to think badly of me. Again, because of that addictive cycle, always trying to get the highs, putting up with the lows to get the highs. Always hoping for that positive reinforcement, if you will, a little bit of love, a little bit of affection. The first sign of remorse from the abusive person, more often than not, a trauma-bonded person will give them the benefit of the doubt and give them yet another chance. And yet, no matter what someone does, no matter what sacrifices they make or whatever it is they contribute, it will never be enough for the abusive person. Number 5, you hide how you really feel. Hide your emotions. Now, due to invalidation and devaluing, dehumanizing, people in trauma-bonded relationships are often reluctant to show how they really feel. If they're excited about something, they may hide it in case the abuser wrecks it somehow. If they're afraid of something, they will hide it in case the abuser uses it to terrorize them somehow. If they're embarrassed about something, they will hide it in case the abuser uses it to shame and humiliate them. In fact, if they're happy or even just feeling okay about something and the abuser is sad, they hide their happiness. And lastly, sign number 6. It doesn't matter how toxic, unhealthy, or awful the relationship is, the person feels trapped and helpless. Now, that could be for a myriad of reasons. There may be children involved. They may be financially abused, so they can't really afford to leave. Where once there was perhaps confidence, there is now self-doubt. The person has been gaslit so much, they feel so confused. They've lost their sense of reality, lost their sense of agency. There is also, as I often say about narcissism, it can be both very vindictive and very destructive. It tends to destroy things from the inside, and when it can no longer do that, it will try to destroy it from the outside. So there can be a fear that if they were to leave the abuser, they might come after them, target those they love, target their resources, make their lives even more of a misery. The abuser could threaten to spread rumors, destroy that person's character, destroy that person's life. In some cases, the abusive person may even threaten to harm themselves if that person were to leave. So like I said earlier about that cycle of both, say, positive and negative reinforcement, approval and disapproval, sometimes if it's not the need for affection, love, then it's the fear of the disapproval, the fear of the wrath, the consequences that keeps that person there, keeps them trapped. So that's a brief outline of trauma bonding and some of the common signs of being trauma bonded. As always, if there's anything I've missed, anything you'd like to add, please feel free to use the comment box below. There are some interesting conversations started around these videos. But like I said, there are so much to cover on this topic. I couldn't cover it all in one video. So next time I'm going to look at the stages of trauma bonding, how it actually happens. So until next time, thanks for watching.